What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Crystal Alchemy. My name's Joe, and I'll be your host for this podcast. This is the second episode, and on this episode, we're going to talk about food. What's in it? How do you eat healthy? What's the difference between organic and GMO? And what to look out for, and a little bit more information on how it can affect your health. So I'm going to start with Monsanto. They're a company that was recently bought out by Bayer. Most people know who Bayer is. Well, in the 70s and 80s, they created some chemicals, and they've been spraying it on all the food. It's a lot of synthetic chemicals that have been proven in laboratory mice to cause cancers, to cause all types of diseases, allergies that don't exist. And so Monsanto started patenting seeds that would make the plants more resistant to these pesticides, and so they can just spray as much pesticides as they want on them, these synthetic pesticides. So what's going on, and this is what is really alarming to me, everybody knows, that something's wrong with the food, something's not quite right. Well, this is what's bothering me, is that any food pretty much that hasn't been labeled as non-GMO or organic definitely has glyphosate in it, and that's almost 100% fact. And if it doesn't, it has other synthetic chemicals that make it to where they can't pass that grade to get to the organic or the non-GMO status. And this includes the fruits and vegetables that are all over the grocery stores, every single one of them. And I mean, even recently, they're putting other stuff into the fruits and vegetables like A-peel, which is like a plastic filament. It's organic, but, they're just putting stuff in our food that isn't naturally there and shouldn't be there. Well, the long-term effects of glyphosate specifically, this is just glyphosate, not any of the other experimental and synthetic pesticides and herbicides that they put to keep the plants growing. Well, what they do is they spray it on, they take a big airplane and they kind of just soak the crops while they're growing. They don't just hit the ground before they start growing, which would be bad enough, right? No, in the vegetative state they hit it, and then throughout the process they hit it with these pesticides to keep the bugs off, and they have to spray more and more because they're working less. They're not working the same as they used to. It's causing environmental issues. The ground isn't producing nutrients as it was before, and that's why the food that we're eating isn't as nutrient dense as it was before. But the big thing that got me, everybody knows about the vegetables and stuff like that, but the big thing that got me was the bread. So everybody knows that bread comes from wheat, right? And wheat is a crop, and wheat is a crop that they spray glyphosate on often. But not only do they spray it during the growing process to dry out the wheat that goes in all the bread, especially the enriched white bread, to dry out the wheat, they spray it with glyphosate. So in the very final process, so you're getting a fresh coat of glyphosate and whatever other products they use to dry out the wheat faster in your bread. So the only way to get away from that is to either buy your own flour that is non-GMO or organic, or, experiment with that. And that's also more cost effective, by the way. It's a little more time consuming, but, we're talking about something that's very important. We should be spending a little time on our food. But regardless, if you're just eating regular white bread, you are ingesting a large amount of glyphosate. The flour isn't intact, and all the enriching and the bleaching that they do, it causes a lot of problems. So I'm going to go into a personal experience. I've had allergies my entire life. I never knew what they were from. It would happen in fall, winter, spring, summer. And so about a year and a half ago, I started really I was vegan before for like 2 years, just for health reasons and for the humanitarian reasons, I've since adopted a different eating lifestyle, and I'm going to get into that later on in this video. So for me, I would have these terrible allergies all year round, and I never knew what they were from. Allergy medicines would help sometimes they wouldn't even work at all. And somewhere along the line in my little health journey here over the past year, I well, it's because of the glyphosate and the everything. So like I stopped buying all the stuff that had, you know, obvious like a bunch of spray on all the strawberries, the grapes and all that stuff. And the bread, I heard about the bread. So started getting more organic bread. I started baking my own bread with non-GMO flour. At the very least, the bread that I get, and I've been eating a lot less bread just because apparently it's not as good for you as the government told us when we were kids with all the gluten and everything. It's not something that we readily digest large amounts of. You know, we can handle it and it's good for us in certain amounts, but not the white bread, not the bread that they're feeding you, that refined sugar and all that stuff. But I started eating the organic bread. I started paying attention to the wheat and the grains that were going into my body and making sure that the rice and everything wasn't GMO and everything. And so I stopped having these allergy attacks, okay? And so I would test this. Not on purpose sometimes. I would just be out and then I'd have a pretzel or something. And then I'd have a pretzel and literally 5-10 minutes later, I would start getting these crazy like allergy, this rush of allergy attack that was so just uncontrollable and unnecessary. Like I didn't even want to be out in public, you know, because it's like, it's just gross. You know what I mean? Like I had no way to manage it. The Claritin wasn't working, that type of thing. So a couple times of doing that after not eating the bread and everything that is obviously sprayed with the Monsanto products and the Bayer products or whatever. I don't want to, you know, allegedly, right? But as soon as I would have a little bit of gluten or a little bit of that wheat that's sprayed with it, I think a lot of the gluten allergies that people have are actually pesticide allergies. So I'm veering off track a little bit. I'm getting jumbled with the words because it's such a thing, you know. But so I'd stop having these allergy attacks whenever I stopped eating this bread, and so now I know. And just a few nights ago, actually, my buddy brought some cereal over, some Raisin Bran, and you know I like cereal. I don't keep it in the house anymore because I like it so much, and because it's all covered in pesticides and sugars. There's no good cereal that doesn't cost $8. There's no cereal that's good for you that doesn't cost $8, and I don't even know how good that is for you, you know. But especially with today's economy, it's just not feasible. But anyway, I ate the Raisin Bran. I had two big old bowls of it, and man, like the whole rest of the day and into the next day, I was, you know, easing my allergy attacks and stuff like that. So really, that's a personal experience. I know other people have different experiences with everything. Some people, you know, it's the berries. They spray the berries, and you know they'll have like stomach aches and stuff like that, and you won't even make the connection because you think you're eating healthy, but they've poisoned even the healthy foods. They're telling you eat healthy. Well, they're not even telling you to eat healthy. You know, in the whatever infomercials they put out there that tell you to eat healthy, they don't say nothing about the big food because it's protected. Now, I don't know if any of you guys watch other podcasts and stuff, but Joe Rogan's the biggest podcaster in the world. He did an interview with a guy named Paul Stamets, who is like the leading expert of mycology and mushrooms. And Paul started talking about the portobello mushrooms and how they cause certain issues. He wouldn't go into what issues they were, and he kind of stopped Joe from asking any more questions because he was scared of where it might lead. For example, him getting hurt or in trouble of some kind by these big food companies. And so that leads us to the next little thing. So do some research on the GMOs, because I mean I might even put a video up if it's requested or if anybody wants to know. But there are some foods that you should just never buy unless they are organic or non-GMO. They're just some foods are okay, you know. Like the way that I've kind of taken the approach is realize that even a lot of the organic stuff has small amounts of this stuff in it. You're getting it. You're getting a little bit of poison, unfortunately, with the food that you eat. There's no way around it. But the food that is being mass distribute it to everybody. If you're not looking for the right food and you're just eating whatever is put in front of you, they put the poisonous stuff in front of you first. You go to the gas station, especially any food that's available in a convenience store or a small shop or anything like that. You're like, God bless them, unless they're looking for the organic options. Even a lot of like the smaller shops, you go in and you get a bag of Cheetos. Like, yeah, none of that's good. So that's going to lead us to the next segment, which is the collusion and the kind of cooperation between the big food industry and the big pharmaceutical industries. So the coronavirus epidemic was a pretty huge spectacle, right? It was made out to be something huge. Wherever you stand on the vaccines, this isn't an episode for that. I have my own views, and you probably know what they are, but I'm not going to get into that. What I am going to get into is how we observed a whole bunch of people get sick and die. A whole bunch of people get sick, especially with these things called comorbidities, and why in America the percentage rate was so much higher than in all these other countries. All these Americans had a bunch of comorbidities, they had pre-existing conditions, heart disease, they had cancer, they had respiratory issues already. America's the only country who's got this many sick people, and nobody seems to know why. But if we look at our healthcare system and the food system, and you compare it to those abroad, especially the European countries who've taken measures recently to kind of cut out a lot of the ingredients, a lot of ingredients that have been proven to cause cancer, they've been proven to cause neurological disorders, make you think not good. you know, they've been proven to really slow down the progress of evolution, if you know what I mean. And that could be a reason why. So it's a problem, and so what's going on is the big health and the big food are working together. Notice, like, all the big food companies it's all food that is absolutely terrible for you and gives you heart disease, gives you cancer and everything. So the Coca-Colas, the McDonald's, all the signs that you see when you're driving down the road, it's all programming you to eat this food that is laced with chemicals, that is slowing down your brain, slowing down your body, leading to problems later on down the road. And it explains why we have such a health problem in the United States of America specifically. And so what ends up happening is all these kids start getting diabetes. My girlfriend actually has type 1 diabetes. She's had it her whole life. Type 1 diabetes. My adoptive mom growing up, she had it growing up. Right around the time when they started spraying that stuff on the food was when she started growing up. But before then, they didn't really know what type 1 diabetes was. It was kind of a rare disease. Same with the type 2 diabetes. Diabetes was rare. Everybody knows it's from the food. I don't got to talk anymore about that. Everybody knows that all these problems, the overweight kids, all the psychological issues is from the food and the drugs. So that's where we're gonna kind of, you know, have you guys seen? I think it's Ozempic or something like that. There's a drug that helps you lose weight. You take it, and apparently, you're supposed to lose weight. I don't know how it works. There's all these pharmaceuticals that are coming out now that are kind of combating the damage that they've already done. But the thing is, it's the same people who did this to you, who were curing you. And I just want to kind of drill into the fact that, like, there's another way. You don't have to do anything by their standards. The earth provides everything. It's just finding the knowledge. For example, infections. I was getting somewhat frequent infections about a year ago. It was kind of alarming me. I was drinking kind of heavy, and even now, whenever I have a couple beers, I start to notice like my there's like inflammation and stuff like that. And so I was starting to have infections, and one of my friends recommended Manuka honey, and at the same time, I discovered cold therapy and the Wim Hof breathing technique, and so I haven't had any infections probably for the past like 8 months to a year, and I don't see myself getting them anymore because whenever they have started up, if they have started up, and I'm getting a little personal here, but it's just like to offer a little bit of perspective. There was minor skin infections and stuff, but they bothered me nonetheless. And so I can cure them now. And not from any drugs that they prescribe, not from anything that they've ever said. If I were to go to the hospital with one of these infections, they would just prescribe me an antibiotic and it would ruin my gut. And that's what was going on for a couple of years there. Yeah, and so I was never diagnosed with anything, and so but I could just say from my own personal experience that the problems that I was having from the antibiotics with the gut and everything, throwing up, like um just feeling weak, feeling like my body was not supposed to have this in it, and this wasn't the answer. So I did try a few things, and then I landed on the Manuka honey, which is from New Zealand. It's a not all natural honey, and it's amazing to cure infections and stuff. And then the ice bath, and so there's natural remedies, and they don't want you to know about these things. The breath work, filling your body with oxygen. Who would have thought that oxygen and water could cure you, but it's these simple things, just getting your body back to a natural order. It's like we're so out of natural order, we're so out of whack that our bodies don't even know what to do. They just get sick. They can't fight off these simple things that normally a strong body would be able to. And so people are getting sick. They're getting real sick. They're not paying attention to what is going in their bodies. And so, yeah, all the wheat, all the vegetables, all the fruits, you got to really. So I'm gonna go on to the next segment. After I make this one little closing statement with the pharmaceutical companies and the medical companies working together, and that is they're just working together to keep you in a perpetual state of sickness, so that way you are worth more to them. Because in your current state, with you working your little job and you paying your Social Security and you paying your taxes, it's not enough for them. Basically, they're all in it together. Big government, big pharma, big food, big oil, even. But we won't get into that because that's it's just they're working together. They're all separate entities, but it's all for the same thing. It's just that they've found that you are valuable to them in ways that you can't do work for them. But if you're sick, and you're paying them tens, hundreds of $1,000s to get better over the course of your life, you're worth a lot more than if you just sit there and work and you grow your own food and you're healthy. Which leads me to the next section, growing your own food. So this is something that is so crazy to me that we don't do. I moved to a property about a year ago, and I've always wanted to just grow my own food, and I just didn't know how. You're living in the suburbs. The ground is soaked in pesticides again, soaked in stuff. Like, it doesn't grow right, and so I've learned a few things that could be helpful to people who are living in those situations. And also for those people who do have like maybe a little bit of spot where they could grow some food, dig it up, put some good soil in there, how to make your own soil and stuff like that. Um, Microgreens. Microgreens, everybody talks about it. If you haven't heard, they're super easy to grow. You just put a bunch of seeds into a pot, cover it up with like a half inch of soil, water it. Within a couple of days, you got some sprouts, and then by 2 weeks, you've got microgreens. But if you grow a bunch of them, you got your whole greens. They've got good protein, amino acids. You can start growing lettuce. Lettuces are easy to grow. Any leafy greens are easy to grow. Beans grow real fast. Start, start slow. Get a pot. Get a bag of soil that's not like miracle grow. Like get organic soil. Like you're gonna be eating this food, so you gotta be careful what's in the actual soil. Just start slow. Start slow. Start supplementing things. Start buying flour and learning how to bake. Start figuring out what plants are in your area that you can eat. Look into mushrooms. If you're in a area with morels, like that's a blessing. If you live in an area with morels and you're not out looking for mushrooms, you're missing out on some serious health benefits. growing medicinal and edible mushrooms are great too because they help with your neurological function. Um they help with your immune system. They help with your nervous system. They're a whole body transformer. They help with stress and uh and so growing your own food seems like a daunting task to a lot of people, and it's not like you got to grow all of your own food. But if you were to say a lot of people do trades, and if you say you had a whole bunch of microgreens or some microgreen plants or something, you just started up like in your back porch or something like that, or on your windowsill even, you know, you could supplement that. You could even get into trading plants, trade a plant for some produce even. Start going to the farmers markets instead of the grocery stores. And if you go to the grocery stores, just do search for that organic. And so another thing that I've been doing is fasting every once in a while. And fasting is good because, well, you don't necessarily have to take in less calories, but you're in that time that you're fasting, say it's 18 hours or longer, 2 days, 3 days, you're seriously thinking about your hunger and what you're going to put in your body next. And when you're that kind of hungry, you don't think about eating Cheetos. Your body starts realizing it needs nutrients and everything. It also gives your body a reset, gives you a flush. And if you intermittent fast, like I do sometimes, if you intermittent fast, that's 18 hours of just water, and then you fill the other 6 hours with. Sorry, I had to remember if it was 6 or 4 hours, but the other 6 hours with food. So you can do it for 16 hours, do a 6 and 8 split. So it's not so hard, but you just drink water and you can sleep 8 of those hours. So, a lot of people, they'll just eat real big breakfast and lunch and then just skip dinner, just drink water the rest of the day and resume, at like 10 o'clock the next morning or something. You can go that way. I like to skip breakfast with it. You can have some black coffee and stuff. But it what it does is you can skip a meal and you don't have to do it every day. Some people like to do it every day. Um, I like to have a few days where I just eat, all day. I feel like it's good for the soul. I love food. I love to eat. But when you fast, you're you you may not eat like the breakfast, right? So what you do is you make like a bigger dinner, and you can kind of eat a little bit more, and take your multivitamin and just kind of eat more macros, whether it's carbs or proteins or whatever it is that your body needs. Everybody's different. So some people need more protein, some people need more fat, some people need more carbs. So that's up to you to kind of like get into and figure out. I will say that a lot of the carbohydrates that are readily available to us aren't, useful at all. So just keep that in mind. If you're trying to fill up those extra calories with donuts or something like that, it's not even doing anything for you in any positive way whatsoever.